Mental Health Chats. We are all about working with you for better emotional fitness. I'm Clare Davis, and the aim of Mental Health Chats is to help people bring more positive mental health into their lives. So we're all about spotting the signs, having the conversation, and bringing positive mental health into your life. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening on podcast, please follow. I'm really excited because we're in January, and this month our topic is all about emotional fitness. And we'll be doing emotional fitness every year because what we want to aim to do is to help people start to bring emotional fitness and think about it in January and bring it into their lives throughout the whole year. So I'm interviewing people from all around the world and from all walks of life. And today we've got Katie Neeves. Hi, Katie, how are you?
Hi, Claire, I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And Katie is our guest from the UK this time. So whereabouts are you at the moment, Katie?
I'm in Leicestershire in the Midlands of the UK.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So Katie, who is Katie Neeves?
I'm just a gobby trans woman.
Okay, tell me about that. What do you do?
Okay, well, I've been a photographer and filmmaker for the last 34 years, doing that professionally. But 3.5 years ago, I came out very publicly as being transgender after living for 48 years as a man. You can probably tell by the deep pitch of my voice that either I've been a heavy smoker for the last 30 years, or in fact I am transgender. Frankly, I couldn't cope with the sheer stigma of being labelled as a smoker, so I decided to go for the easy option.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So what do you actually do? You say you're a gobby trans. So what do you do? What do you do in your life?
Yeah, gobby trans woman. Yeah, I basically, after coming out very publicly as being transgender, I sort of had to do it really because in that way, because my photography and video business was and still is actually named after my old male name. It's called Martin Neeves Photography and Film, and it had been an established brand at that stage, and so for 22 years, and I got lots of great reviews and stuff like that. So I just felt that it was too strong a brand to change the name of that when I changed my name to Katie, and so I decided to make a coming out video, and I put it on. Well, I sent it to all my clients and I put it on all my social media. Go big or go home. I was so frightened of the response I would get, because I could have lost my whole income and my reputation, everything. But thankfully, people responded well, and so then I started doing interviews about it, and I started vlogging my whole journey.
Wow.
And it's actually led to me becoming a trans ambassador. So now, so then I set up a business called Cool to be Trans, where I do trans awareness training and inspirational speaking.
Oh, I love it. I love your story and your journey.
There's a lot more to it than that. There's an awful lot. That's the very, very quick edited version.
And I did ask for the quick edited version, but if you would like Katie to come into your organization and do the long version, I'm sure Katie would be willing. So
I can come and stir things up a bit. That's fine.
Go for it. Go for it. So Katie, why do you believe that emotional fitness is important in our lives?
I think what it is, it's to stop the fear of bad things actually happening, because I think it's that fear is often so much worse than the actuality of things, and the fear builds up and builds up, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes a huge problem. So I think emotional fitness is absolutely vital.
I love the way you've worded that, actually, and none of our other guests have worded it in that way. So it's to stop the fear of what can happen. And it's if we are emotionally fit, we are so much more positive and so much more out of life. So thank you for that.
Totally, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself on, what top 3 things do you do for your emotional fitness?
Well, before I go on to the actual top 3 things that I do or should do, let me just tell you about something that I actually have done in the past. So in the early stages of my transition, I needed a lot of emotional support, and I had a lot of help, actually from a clairvoyant and a spiritual guide who's been absolutely amazing. I've had some incredible, and she was actually part of, but there was a stage when I've always had gender dysphoria, which is a great feeling of unease caused by a mismatch between how you feel in your head and your heart, as opposed to your primary sex characteristics and the label that you're given at birth. And so I've always had it, but I've always struggled with it, and I struggled with it for 48 years before finally admitting it to myself. But there was a point when I was completely troubled by my gender identity, and I just didn't know what gender I was at all. So I had to go on a whole journey. And as part of that, I mean, the many other things that I did as well, seeing, having counselling and going through a self-help workbook and stuff as well. But as part of that, I did see this clairvoyant and spiritual guide, and she has been absolutely amazing. And she's given me so much emotional support, and just there's been various different points when I've hit crisis points, and then I've gone to her for some help, and I absolutely couldn't have done my transition without her. I really couldn't. So I really give her great credit for helping me through, and for being as strong as I am, because I'm very comfortable with my past, and that's quite unusual for trans people. I'm the fact that I told you my old name was Martin. Most trans people are very uncomfortable even talking about their old name. They call it their dead name, but I'm completely at peace with myself and my past, and I'm grateful to Martin for stepping back and allowing me to be Katie. And that is all through the work that I've done with the clairvoyant and spiritual guide, purely through her.
I love that story, and I love the fact that it's a case of this is a massive change for your life, and we all need to seek out different ways that when we're going through some sort of change, and we're all going through changes, what suits us for our emotional fitness.
Absolutely. It's whatever works for you. And it's funny, actually, one of the processes that I went through with this clairvoyant was it was a 4-hour interactive process where she didn't give me any answers at all. She just asked me a series of questions, question after question after question. It was relentless. Now, whether she got the questions from spirit or not, I haven't got a clue. But she just asked me all these questions, but she allowed all the answers to come from me and my inner truth. But before she got there, she used deep meditation to get me into a really relaxed state, so I could get past all my fear and access my inner truth. And it's really funny that I've spoken to a friend of mine who's a trans woman, and she went to a hypnotherapist, and he used a similar technique with her. So it's really interesting that, but we approached it from different ways, but then it had the same.
I was going to say that sounds like solution-based hypnosis.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that. So that's what I've done sort of in the past, but now, in terms of mental and emotional fitness, I mean, I find day to day, most people accept me really well, and I'm very lucky that I very rarely get any transphobic remarks when people see me. But I think I am lucky in the fact that it's a horrible word, but pass. But I think when people see me, they don't realize that I'm trans. Okay, when they hear me, and I explained earlier before we started recording that I've been to a wedding recently where the music was up really loud, so I had to shout, and so my voice got lower and lower, and say, I'm glad this recording wasn't yesterday, because I sounded like Barry White yesterday. but so obviously when people hear me, then they usually realize I'm trans, but when they see me, generally they don't. But even so, when I'm coming out all the time because of the work that I do, and most people just treat me with so much respect, and they're lovely, and that's fine. But because I do put my head above the parapet so much, and I am so visible, and as a gobby trans woman, I get a lot of hate messages online. And so I got 1,000 messages of hate recently, and there's a very very noisy anti-trans lobby that like to throw a lot of hate around, especially on certain social media platforms, who don't do very well at protecting people from hate messages. One particular platform particularly. Really? Beginning in face and ending in book.
Oh, right. Okay. I wonder what that is.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. Yeah. yeah, so I get a lot of that. So the way that I protect myself from that is when that happens, because most of the time it's fine, but every now and again there's a pile on and a load of them, they come on, and I know that I'm being attacked, and so when that happens, I just back off from social media. It's so important because, and a lot of trans people, they become very reclusive because they lose their confidence and they end up living their life online. But that's the worst thing, because
Yeah.
then they think that real life is like it is online, but then that makes it worse because it's vile, all the stuff that goes on there, because these social media platforms allow people to have anonymity,
Yeah.
and they allow them to have accounts where they don't have to provide any sort of ID. I don't mind them actually having anonymity once they're on there, but I think they should provide some ID so that they're accountable for what they say. Because when I post something on social media, I am totally accountable for what I say, because
Yeah.
it's my real name, it's my real picture. People can easily track me down. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I think, yeah, and I think it should be the same for everyone, because people say vile stuff online that they would never say to your face. They
Yeah.
wouldn't dare. And so anyway, I get a lot of hate. So when that happens, I just back off from it, and I find that um, there's a lot of power in their messages at the time they write them, but a few weeks later,
Yeah.
that power subsides. And so I find that if I just ignore them, I can see it. I see it coming in and think, okay, I just won't look at it. And then maybe
Yeah.
3 weeks later, I'll then go through them and then delete them and block them and report them and stuff. And yeah, but I need that time just to let that power subside. So that is one very important thing that I do to protect myself, because otherwise it would be, yeah, I would be in a right state. Having to
I
cope with
love that
it.
advice. So the first one is to stop social media.
Yeah, absolutely, because it can be toxic. It really
Yeah,
can.
can do. Definitely.
And then next one, which I used to do and I like to do and I should do more of, but I'm being a bit naughty at the moment, is meditation. Yeah,
Yeah.
mindfulness is so powerful. It really is, and it's helped me a lot. It really has. It's so often our minds can get sort of stirred up with so much stuff going on inside, and it just helps just to let it all settle, and it's brilliant. It is so powerful and so underrated. But yeah, I've got a bit out of practice with it, so I'm feeling a bit guilty for that one.
Well, Katie, you've hit the nail on the head there. We need to practice meditation.
Do.
It's something that I gave myself a 21-day challenge in the first lockdown to do. I'm
Yeah.
still doing it, not every day, but I do know if I get into that spiral where I don't do it for about a week, my head's in a different place.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I need to make that time again to do it, because it does work. It really
Oh
does
yeah,
work.
it's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's number 2.
That's number 2. And number 3 is a simple one, but just socializing with my friends and doing things
Yeah.
like dancing. I love salsa dancing. I haven't been able to do it, with lockdown and all that sort of stuff. And now I know that we're sort of out of that period now, but I'm, lessons have started up in that, but I still don't feel comfortable enough doing that yet, especially when you're swapping partners and everything with it. So I think I'm going to leave it a little while before I get back into that. But just socializing with my friends, it's just
Yeah.
it's just lovely, and I think that's something that, even though during the last sort of couple of years, we've all sort of been hibernating away in our homes and ending up doing, virtually, but even just socializing on Zoom or whatever platform, it's still really good. I mean, it's not the same as being in the same room with someone, but I think as a one-to-one conversation, it is very good, and that certainly helped me throughout lockdown, and yeah, I think it's so much better when you can see someone's face rather than just talking on the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can.
definitely. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. They're brilliant tips. And what I'm loving about this series is that everybody's got different tips and we're all different. So let's work out what our emotional fitness, how our emotional fitness is affected and what's good for us out
Yeah.
there. So my next question is about you. What do you do when you really want some me time?
Um, I really love country walks, to be honest. I just love just going out for a walk in the country and just enjoying nature, and just smelling the freshness in the air and listening to the rustling of leaves, or if if it's a frosty day or something, that sound of crunching of leaves under the foot and all that sort of stuff. It really does ground you, doesn't it? I love it. I really,
Yeah.
it takes you away from everything else. It really does. Yeah, and that was actually, again, it was part of my journey in working out my gender identity as well. As part of the story was going out for a long walk, and there's not enough time to tell you the whole story, but that was all part of it. And yeah, it means a lot to me, country walks.
Brilliant. Love it. Oh, Katie, you've been such an inspiration. I've loved working with you. And there's probably a lot of people out there who are saying, I need to get in touch with Katie. So where can people find you?
Well, basically, I'm all over social media. I'm like a social media tart. I really am. I'm on. Well, I'm on all of them. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm even on TikTok, but I promise you, it is a twerk-free zone. So I mean, they can look me up as either as Katie Neeves or Cool to be Trans. So the business is Cool, and then number 2, and then the letter B, and then trans. That's on those. Or they can have a look at my website, which is cooltobetrans.co.uk. So, but just remember, it's the number 2 and then the letter B in there. But that's probably the best starting point, and you can see about all the stuff I've been getting up to.
Brilliant. And I've already referred you to some of my clients, which is absolutely brilliant. So
yes, thank you so much for that.
And thank you, Katie, for being a part of Mental Health Chats. You have been such an inspiration, such a delight. And I think it's fantastic that we are opening up conversations to help those people with their emotional fitness for positive mental health. Thank you and take care.
Yeah, and you. Thank you very much, Claire. Lovely to speak to you.